Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So in this one, we are taking a look at some decks to get your weekend missions done. So if you haven't seen already, they added in weekend quests during the last season, and basically gives us a little bit of extra rewards for doing some quests on the weekend. And these quests are generally specific to the season pass card, as well as the card of the week. There is a third reward, which is just for winning games. Typically, that's usually been credits. However, one weekend it was season pass XP. Hope we're not getting that again, because pass XP feels a lot less good than credits, no matter how small. And then for the season pass card, it has been 150 gold as the reward. And for the card of the week, the reward has varied throughout the different weeks, but it is some form of collector's tokens. Unfortunately, we don't know the exact values week to week. We'll see them on reset when the shop resets tonight. So that'll be happening on reset. But we do know you're going to have to win games with Jean and the Phoenix Force. And if it's like the other weeks, it's going to be 15 games with each card. So starting it off here, we're going to take a look at two decks that utilize both Jean and the Phoenix Force, so that way you can get two fiery birds done with one stone. This first one here is based off a deck from Safety Blade, and that is a Destroy Surfer build. We actually saw someone have a decent bit of success with a Destroy Surfer a month or two ago, I think during the Guardians of the Galaxy season. So we're just making a few slight revisions there. We have pretty much all the relevant Destroy cards in the game. We're using Phoenix Force to just kind of get a little bit more value out of what we're destroying. Not really trying to get value out of the move effect. We're really all in on the destroy game plan. And Jean, obviously a good 3-drop to pair with Surfer, especially if we can fill up her lane pretty quickly. And then Nimrod basically acts as our other big payoff on 5. So if we can get Nimrod down on 5, blow it up twice on the final turn, spreads a whole lot of power throughout the board. And the other deck we have here is a version of Zabu Zoo with a light destroy package, including Carnage, Venom, and Bucky as a bit of payoff. Obviously, Jean works pretty well with this kind of deck, as we are able to spam down our cheap costed cards, fill up the Jean lane pretty quickly, then we're free to play elsewhere, whereas our opponent might struggle with that a bit more. Phoenix Force is just here to get the quest done. It doesn't really matter what it's copying, it's just going to copy whatever you happen to destroy. Another thing worth noting about this deck is if you feel like you want more 1-drops included, you could also opt to put Thanos in here if you want to have more stuff that you can destroy with Venom and Bucky, though you will have to be a little bit aware of the fact that you're a little bit more vulnerable to Killmonger, which has always been kind of problematic for Zoo. Now, moving on, we're going to look at some Jean-specific decks first. This one comes from KK Sparkles, and I saw Empty Apartment used it to get an Infinity ticket the other night in Conquest. Really neat idea here. We're just using Jean to guarantee value out of our Guardians of the Galaxy. Storm helps with that as well, limiting where the opponent can play. And then we have some things that enable us to go a little bit more wide, things like Claw, Doctor Doom, Jeff, and Silk, and obviously Nebula, who benefits from being able to close down the lane with Storm or limit where the opponent can play their cards with Jean Grey. Then we have the Thanos in Jeans list from KM Best. Really cool list here. I've always been a big fan of the Valkyrie Thanos decks, and I'll take any excuse I get to be able to use Ghost. So I've always really liked that card. But if you're a fan of the ongoing Zoo style of decks, I think this is a really solid way to go. Really fun to play and utilizes Jean in a very effective manner. And then our last Jean focused deck here comes from Safety Blade, and this one is a purely ongoing focus list. This might remind you a little bit of the old ongoing Destroyer, as there's a lot of overlap here, but I really like what's going on with this list. It also happens to be very budget friendly. I think the only non-budget card here, excluding Jean, would be Nebula. And if you do not have Nebula, I would just recommend replacing her with Nightcrawler, as having a card that can just fill up our Jean lane and then we can move it away later can be helpful. And outside of Mr. Fantastic, we don't really have other ways of getting into closed lanes, so he can help shore up that weakness of the deck too. So that's what I'd use for a budget replacement. But overall, again, if you're a fan of the ongoing archetype, but maybe you don't have Thanos or you're not as into the Thanos style, this is definitely a decent way to go for Jean that happens to be pretty budget friendly. Now moving on to Phoenix Force. Unfortunately, Phoenix Force has not seen a whole ton of success. People posted some interesting results with it on the first few days, but it seems to have fallen out of favor as many predicted. And if you don't really care to try and optimize a deck around utilizing its effect, I think a very effective method of getting your wins is just to slam it in Lockjaw. Lockjaw is a proven deck, and even with the nerfs to Wasp and Hulk, I think it is still a very powerful archetype in Shell. So just slam the Phoenix Force in there, call it a day. You'll probably still win more than enough games to get your mission done. And then closing it out, we have just a very basic destroy list with Phoenix Force, Multiple Man, and Human Torch as our main targets for the Phoenix Force. Other than that, just all the good destroy cards, Shuri Nimrod stuff, so we have another good way to go 4 into 5 and to close out the game with blowing up a bunch of Nimrods as kind of a backup plan, which, I mean, honestly, it's probably more of a forward plan, given that it's usually going to be stronger than Phoenix Force, but you do actually want to utilize this card to the best of its ability. Probably would try this one out. However, do be aware there is still a bug with Phoenix Force, so if you do end up getting a copy of it, unfortunately the copy can't move. Confirmed a bug, hopefully they can fix it soon, but definitely making some of the interactions with copying it weaker, because you don't get that value off of copying the Human Torch or the Multiple Man on the copy. And that's going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, the decks will be linked in the video description, so if you want to just grab them to import into the game nice and easy, you can find those in the description. And let me know what you think about this kind of video. I always enjoy doing the deck overviews, and I know weekend quests are a newer thing, and I think this has potential to be helpful, especially for those weeks where you're not really sure what to do with the card. So let me know in the comments below what you think about it. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next. Peace.